Welcome back, guys. Today's day 7. Day 7 in your intermediate confidently crocheting. We're talking about switching your colors. I just have a quick little practice swatch here. It's simply single crochets 7 stitches wide. But let's say you're doing something for your kid and it's got to be school colors. So they have yellow, and for just simplicity, we have this dark red. And you're ready to start doing something here with a color change. First tip is to not complete the stitch right before you switch the color. What you're going to do is have the last 2 loops on there. Go ahead, get ready with your next color yarn, and then I would put that yarn on top and lay my thumb there. I'm now holding a long enough tail to weave in. I'm holding my yarn and my work. The next tip is this main color, the first color tail. You still need tension so that this loop doesn't become extra long and wobbly and make things unproportioned. So lay that and pinch it down. Now you still have your tension correct. You can grab, pull through, and finish the single crochet. Now grab that yellow and the red and get them out of the way so that you can make your next stitches. And you just work your single crochets like you had been. And I would always do 3 stitches before I let go of those tails, because by the time you're done with 3 stitches, if you let go, that tension is not important anymore. And you would just continue to crochet until it was time to switch colors again or just keep going, right? Now there are some questions of like, what if I wanted to crochet over those tails? Let's take a look at that. The reason why you might want to crochet over the tails is, say we're only going to use this red in the center. There we go. So this time, I'm going to insert my hook, but before I grab any yarn, I'm going to take those tails and lay them on top of that stitch. And now I'll finish the single crochet, and I have I've stitched over the tails. Again, insert, make sure that's lying on top of, and continue to work. And if we were just doing something here in the center, 3 stitches is center. I'm going to switch back to the yellow. I'm going to drop this one back here. I'm going to want to make sure that starting tail is out of my way. Now I'm working with yellow again, and I'm going to transfer so I have tension on this red. And I finish up this single crochet. Now I could drop that red right there. I still want to, well, let me rephrase that. I'm not going to work with it. I still want tension on it because I don't want my stitch to get loose. I'll finish up my crochets right there, turn my work, and then when we come back, I can pick up this red yarn. So see, start the single crochet, drop this, pick up the working yarn, and yes, sometimes things just, there we go, don't want to behave. And now, still holding that working yarn, first color in the back, I'm going to grab this, finish up my stitch. I'm now working with red again. What you can do here to tidy this up is when you go under that and then into the next stitch, that extra little bit of yarn kind of gets eaten up and hidden when you make your stitch. So just like that, you have a very nice, clean area. But notice I didn't carry the yellow. First off, I wanted to show you what happens. Right now, I don't see any colored problems, correct? So we carried the yarn across here, and that's where I have yellow and red. So you're not seeing anything. But if I carry this yellow across this red, I want you to see what the difference is. So remember, we insert, you lay this color that you're carrying across on top of the stitch. and we work across. Not so much a problem here on the front, but when you look on the back side, you see that color coming through. So if this is something that all one side is literally going to be the wrong side and it's like going to be up against something and it's not a big deal, totally awesome. If it is a big deal, if that's going to cause, you know, it not to be coming out as awesome as you want, then what you'll need to do is you'll need to have two different working yarns of yellow so that right here I can leave this yellow on this side, work across, and then when I'm to this moment, I would grab yellow again, have a starting tail to weave in later by doing all that same setup, holding things out of the way, keep my tension, finish up. And then what you have now is you're going to have continuous tails that you can pick up. Right here's the red. And yes, things will start to get tangled just as you go along. If it starts to become a problem, you'll have to undo it from the skeins itself, but it all comes together. All right, remember this trick. Go underneath that line and then insert into the stitch so that when you come out, it just holds it all right there. 2 and 3. Now, remember you start the stitch, but here's where we drop the color we're working on and grab the next color. And again, we're going to hide that by incorporating it into the bottom of the next stitch. And now what you're going to get is a clean color here on the front and on the back. So another time to keep in mind when to work over the tails is if it is just a short spot, the colors are close enough and your stitches are tight enough, then yeah, go ahead, you can crochet over them. But if you have areas where you have gaps in your stitches, let's say you were doing double crochet and you were chaining one, skipping a stitch. Right here, because you would have a gap, if you were trying to carry any yarn across, you would have those loose ends just kind of able to be caught and pulled on and messed with. So you never want to carry yarn over through open spots. You want to just leave tails to weave in later. Now also, these double crochets bring something to mind. Let's cover how you're going to switch out things when it's a taller stitch. All right, so double crochet. What you're going to do is you're going to finish the bottom part of the stitch, leave the last 2 loops on, then finish the stitch. Now you can really see that we have this line here. So when I go to make that, I still want to catch that so I can tuck it into the next stitch. And now it's a little bit more noticeable because it's a taller stitch, but it still gets swept into that and it's not going to be like blaring in your face. Okay. Again, I've got 2 colors remaining. I'm going to finish with this yellow. Again, I will come and grab that to tuck it into and work my stitch. So that's what you do so that your color change literally is all together. If you do not switch colors at the end of the stitch. Let me show you what happens. So if we finish this with the red, then I come over here. I'm holding the red out of the way. I yarn over. Then I make this change into the color. You end up with a hat on top of the second color. So now it's not a clean color difference. Let's say you're attaching a brand new skein of yarn. So you're doing that because, you know, you've finished off one skein of yarn and you need to, so that you can keep going, or even the pattern calls for you to come back to a certain area and start again by attaching yarn. Regardless of how where you are in the pattern, if it's a brand new spot or where you were currently working, it's basically the exact same thing. You get the new yarn, you hold it to pinch it down with a tail to weave in later. You're going to pull that through. You have a loop now, chain one if you're attaching a brand new. I would tighten this down. Now, you need to understand that is not counted as a stitch. You've just anchored the yarn to the project. Most patterns will tell you whether or not to work in the same stitch as joining or into the next stitch. Read the special notes if they have them. When all else fails, if they haven't included any information, count ahead. So if the pattern said 7 single crochets and you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, well, then I have to be in this one so that I can have 7. So you insert and you just work single crochets, ta-da, like normal. Now at this point, yeah, I would crochet over that tail so that it's anchored. I'll go over 3 stitches. Now I'll move it out of my way and I'll keep crocheting. And then when I'm done with this project, I would come back in and I would weave in the ends. So that's attaching a new skein of yarns to a new spot. If you are attaching the new skein of yarn here, where you were already working, it's just like when switching out. You would do what's necessary to get yourself started. And then right here, let's say you ran out of yarn right here, like that's the end of the skein. So what you want to do, you're going to hold it like we did with the other. Oops. Put that new one in front, hold it down, finish up your stitch, just like that. If I'm going to have colors and I don't want yellow to be showing through, then yes, I'm going to hold it tightly to have my tension, hold it out of the way. I'm going to work my next stitches. I'll get 3 stitches in. And after that, I should be good to let go of those ends and I'll just weave them in at the end. Alrighty, guys. So that's how, okay, notice here we've got this gap. When you go to weave in ends, actually that's red. What are we gonna do? When I go to weave in these ends, I can take that yellow and I can just sew to start cinching things. When I'm doing the red, I can go ahead and take a small little bite out of this and come back into those red stitches. That if you get any gaps because they're taller stitches, just little tricks. So let me show you that. So let's say because you've had tall stitches and where you've had your color change, you end up with this gap. When it's time to weave in ends, make sure that this is pulled tight. And then what you can do is literally just grab a small little bite of it into the second color. But now come back over here and you're going to weave into your 3 stitches just like that. And when you pull it over, it's closed up that gap. And because you just took a small little piece, You haven't changed the way that the stitch looks or lays. You've closed the gap, and everything is going to come out just beautiful. So that is one thing to look at when you are cleaning up and finishing up. That's it for day 7. Tomorrow we will cover going over short rows.